it's like I'll just ask her. Once she says that yes, they have given the permission. How madam? Sir, you're audible.
Good evening. The viewers of Abhinaya Bharati and Professor V.T. Nayak sir, Dr. Arvind Kulkarni, and all lovers of drama and theatre. I'm sorry I'm late by 10 to 15 minutes. I had some network issues. I'm glad that the network issues have been addressed. Now I am able to speak to you. Today I will be speaking for about 30 to 40 minutes on T.S. Eliot's play Murder in the Cathedral. T.S. Eliot is an American-born British major playwright, poet, and critic. He is known for his plays as much as he is known for his poems and critical essays. He has been an important and very significant influence on all writers across the globe since he produced his classics in theatre, in poetry, and in criticism. He is also regarded as one of the most complicated, complex, difficult poets of the modern period. And he is mainly remembered for his major poems, long poems like Wasteland, Ash Wednesday, and so on. And the teachers of English, especially the professors of English, are never tired of talking about T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot is an interesting personality. He is a great genius. We may agree with his views on certain plays like Hamlet and so on, but we can't help admiring his genius. We can't help admiring his extremely powerful expressions. As a matter of fact, I have to deliver minimum 20 talks on Eliot to explain his poetry and his plays and his criticism. I will have to talk on and about his play Murder in the Cathedral today. The central theme of the play is martyrdom. Martyrdom for the right reason and its capacity to fructify the life of a common man. To become a martyr, to get killed, to protect one's own religion, one's own country, one's own land is called a martyr. The protagonist of this play is Becket, Thomas Becket. He was an Archbishop of Canterbury, and he was a good friend of Henry II, and his relations with the king got strained, and he was exiled to France, where he spent 7 years, and came back to England and got killed. It's a historical play. This is the history of the murder of Archbishop. And T.S. Eliot wrote a very significant play based on the theme of martyrdom, the theme of the murder of Becket, Thomas Becket. So it is the story of the Archbishop Thomas Becket's opposition to the will of King Henry the Second. This is an interesting play. This is a great play. It's one of the modern classics. The play is about mainly two characters. And these two characters represent two systems and two ideologies. So it is a clash of interests. It's a clash of interests. It is a clash of ideologies. It is a clash of systems. And it's a clash of powers. On the one hand, we have the Archbishop Thomas Becket. On the other, we have King Henry II. One represents spiritual power and the other temporal power. Temporal power. And now the question is, who is superior? Who is superior and who has to wield the absolute power? Who has to exercise power and who should be subordinate to whom? So in other words, it's a clash. It's a clash between politics and religion. And the aim of politics and religion appears to be one and the same. Religion also wants to exercise its absolute power on the people, and politics also wants to do the same. But in any given country, you have politicians and you have religious men, but who has to rule the country? Who has to rule the nation? Who has to rule the people? This is the question. And Becket says, Thomas Becket says that he is not subordinate to the king. And king thinks that he represents God. God rules the people through the king. So the king has the genuine power. The king has an absolute power, and the king can Becket says, no, you are not important. You are not all powerful. You are not the one who can rule the world, because there is somebody who is above you and me, who can and he can alone rule the world. So I respect the power of the church. I respect the power of Pope. For me, power comes from Roman Pope. Power comes from Rome, not from England. So this is the bone of contention between the two. Now, what is very interesting about this play is King Henry II never appears on the stage. Not even once. Not even once. Only his henchmen, the knights or tempters, they come. Tempters come to persuade Becket, convince Becket of the necessity to respect. You compromise with the king, and the play compromising religion and politics, whether politics and religion can be compromised. We don't have this problem in India because India, what you call Hinduism is not an institutional religion like other major religions. So there is no big conflict between religion and politics in India. But in Christian countries and Islamic countries, you can find this. You can find this gap. They try to, exercise the supreme power. What is happening in Afghanistan, in most of the Islamic countries. They say, religion is more important. Similarly, this problem we can find in a lot of European countries. A lot of murders have taken place, killings have taken place in the name of, in the clash between, not in the name of religion, in the clash between religion and politics. Because church is recognized, it is an institution, and president and so on. In religion also you have this same hierarchy. You don't find this hierarchy in India because the major religion in India is Hinduism, and Hinduism is not an institutionalized religion, and it doesn't have a single text, a single person to dictate the terms. So because of this, we don't have big clash between religion and politics. So in a country like India, politics is more important than religion. But in T.S. Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral, we find the clash between politics and religion. Religious power and temporal power. Political power and the power of the church. But interestingly, Henry II does not appear on the stage at all, not even once. But from the beginning of the play till the end, all the characters keep on talking about Henry II. When you read the play, you feel that whether Henry II, King Henry II, ordered his knights to go and kill the Archbishop. We wonder at the end of the play. He really ordered his henchmen, his Archbishop. So this is the context in which we have to read and appreciate this play. Now, Archbishop has been exiled. He spent 7 years in France. When the play begins, the chorus is a group of women. So they talk about the arrival of Archbishop Thomas Becket. They also give a hint to the audience that his arrival in England after 7 years will lead to tragedy, will lead to death, will lead to anarchy. This is what they say in the beginning. 7 years and the summer is over. 7 years since the Archbishop left us. He who was always kind to his people, but it would not be well if he should return. You know, it's not good if he returns. So he was very popular. Archbishop was very popular and very kind to people and very popular and very generous, and no king will accept this. I think this play has made a tremendous influence on Girish Karnad. You can find a lot of similarities between Murder in the Cathedral and Taladanda. In Taladanda, Bijala also asked this question. He asks Basavarna, Basavarna, tell me whether I am more popular than, Basavarna, you are more popular than I am in Kalyana. People don't talk about the king, they talk about you. And they don't come to Aramane, but they come to Mahamane. Aramane, Mahamane. So your Mahamane has become, power center. As a matter of fact, Aramane should have become power center. Palace should have become power center. But your house, which is called Mahamane, big house, has become power center of power. So this leads to two proud men cannot be. They are friends. They cannot be friends for a long time. You will have to come out of your ego, out of your pride, to have a lasting friendship. 7 years ago, or one decade ago, Henry II, King Henry II and Archbishop were good friends. They were good friends. And it was the king who made him Archbishop of Canterbury, and it was the king who made him Chancellor. He enjoyed both temporal and religious powers. But when he realized that religious power was more powerful than temporal power, then he resigned from chancellorship. He remained only as the head of the institution. Now, the priests in Canterbury have been waiting for Thomas Becket to come back to Canterbury and lead them. They were very happy with him, and they want him to come back again to lecture them, to preach them, to instruct them, to give them what they really need, etc. But they are afraid of that Becket is a very tough man. He can never compromise. He can never surrender himself to the king. So one priest says, I see nothing quite conclusive in the art of temporal government, but violence, duplicity, and frequent malversion. King rules or baron rule. The strong man strongly, and the weak man by caprice. They have but one law, to seize the power and keep it. So the priest explains the aim of power. Whether you are a king or a baron, your aim is to acquire power, seize the power, and keep it. The story comes to an end. The story does not come to an end when you seize the power, when you acquire the power. You have to acquire power, and to keep it, you commit more sins. it does not mean that everybody who comes to power will use the wrong means. We need not come to such hasty conclusions. But power itself is dangerous. Power itself is dangerous if it is not properly directed. Okay? If your aim is to serve the society, if your aim is to build the nation, then you use power in the right direction. If you need power for the sake of power, only to enjoy power, then you use the power to crush the powerless or to mislead and so on. So, then as I said, the priests are worried about the consequences. One priest says, what, is the exile ended? Why is he coming back? Why the priest is coming back? Has the exile ended? Is our Lord Archbishop reunited with the king? What reconciliation of two proud men? Can two proud, is it possible to bring about a sort of compromise between two proud men? And has he united with the king? No, he cannot unite with the king. And two strong forces, can never get united. Two very strong heads cannot get united, and two highly individualistic people cannot get united. They can't live together under a single roof. Not possible. Then, another priest says, no, he's coming back. He comes back in full assurance. He has got an assurance. Assurance from whom? Assurance from Rome. So in full assurance are only secure in the power of Rome, the spiritual rule. The spiritual rule, rests with the Pope, and the Pope is in Rome. And not just that, he has got the assurance of right and the love of the people. Eliot tries to tell us that a person who is on the right path and a person who enjoys the love of the people, then nobody can touch him. Nobody can touch him. And it's very difficult to check a man if he is on the right path and if he enjoys the love of the people. And the strength of Archbishop is he is on the right path on the one hand, and he also he has the love of the people. They make all sort of preparation. And there a lot of decoration has been done, and the people are very happy to receive him. It's all fine. But what about the consequences? What will happen after he comes back? But there are priests, 3 to 4 priests, and they all discuss, and they are in the cathedral discussing and waiting for the Archbishop to come. He says, for good or ill, let the wheel turn. The wheel of life, the wheel of power has to turn, whether good or bad. or good or, ill, this wheel has to turn. Let the wheel turn for good or ill. The wheel has been still. It has been stopped. It has been still for a long time. For 7 years. For 7 long years. It has been in still and no good. Or for ill or good, let the wheel turn. That's very important. Then so the priest comes back. He comes to his cathedral. He comes to the place where he spent his time as a powerful clergyman, as a powerful religious man for many years, 7 years ago, and he has come back and he is very happy about it. And the priests, his well-wishers, they all go to him and receive him well, then ask him, whether any understanding is reached between the king and the archbishop. Turmoil and they are murmuring. Then Thomas says, peace. They speak better than they know. What it is to act and or suffer. This is what Thomas Becket believes in. He says they do not know how to act and suffer. And history remembers a man who acts and as a consequence suffers. Christ did it. Christ acted and suffered. Socrates acted and suffered. Even today, if you want to act, you should be prepared to suffer. You should act only when you are ready to suffer. If you are physically and spiritually prepared to suffer, then only you can act. I know, I'm very clear. I am going to act. I protest against the king. I tell the king in his face that I shall not surrender to you. You are not supreme. You are not supreme. I'm not your servant. I'm not your slave. I will tell him. Because for me, only Christ is supreme. I can love and respect and surrender only to Christ. Only to Christ. I will not surrender to anybody but Jesus Christ. And I am ready to suffer for that. They know, I do not know, that action is suffering. Action is suffering. So a man of action suffers. Aristotle also says tragedy happens to a man who acts and thinks. If you are a man of action, you will have to suffer. Basavaraj suffered because he was a man of action. Gandhi was a man of action. Subhash Chandra Bose was a man of an action. And Vivekananda, who was a sannyasi, was also a man of action. So all men of action have suffered. And you must understand, we must understand the nature of action. The nature of action. So, if you are creating a healthy society, solving national issues and problems, then you will be targeted. You will be targeted. If you are in power and you can maintain status quo, you will not suffer because you are not acting. You are only maintaining. If you just maintain, you are safe, but the nation is not safe. I don't say that all the prime ministers are men of actions. Okay? Only few are men of actions. I don't want to name, you know it better. You should be ready to take an action in the larger interest of the nation. You have to take an action in the larger interest of the people to save the nation, to save the nation. If you only aim at popularity, then it's not possible. So history always remembers strong men, brave men. So he says the action is suffering. His life if he comes back to England and tries to exercise his power, disrespecting the king and his men. He knows the consequences of what he is going to do, for which he is ready. Then he tells his priest, for a little time the hungry hawk will only soar and hover, circling lower, waiting excuse, pretense, opportunity. End will be simple, sudden, God-given. He says, I am an object of hawk, this bird of prey, hunting bird. He means to say that the king is like a hungry hawk, HAWK. The king is like a hungry hawk and soaring in the sky, flying in the sky, hovering in the sky, circling lower, waiting for an excuse. Just look at me, I will kill you. You know? Touch me, I will kill you. Waiting for an excuse, waiting for a pretense, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Then he says, end will be simple. Why should one fear death? Why should one fear death? And I don't know why Basavaraj keeps on talking about death. What is to come tomorrow, let it come today. Naale pappudu naluginde barali. I think our playwrights, Girish Karnad, it's a show. Kalburgi have written plays on Basavaraj. I think that they have succeeded in catching the dimensions of personality of Basavaraj and the entire Vachana moment. There is a lot of drama in the moment and in the life of Basavaraj. And I can see similarities between Basavaraj and Beckett. And we can also see similarities between Bichola and Henry II. But unlike King Henry II, Bichola was in good terms with Basavaraj. So he is prepared. Beckett is prepared to die. Then the tempters come. There are 3 to 4 tempters in the play. They very ironical. They are called tempters. Tempter. So you tempt somebody. Tempting means provoking to do a wrong thing, not a right thing. So Thomas gives his response to one of the tempters. He says, I do not know very much about the future. We do not know very much about the future, except that from generation to generation, the same things happen again and again. So he says, I don't know very much about future. But what I know is the same thing happens over and again, and the same thing gets transferred from one generation to another. The same thing happens again and again. Men learn little from other experiences. This is the problem with human beings. We don't learn from others' experiences. You know, I tell my students, this is what I have done, and for which I have suffered, and you don't do this. They don't listen. They never learn from others' experiences, and sometimes they don't learn even from their own experiences. They commit the same mistakes again and again and pay a heavy price for that. But in the life of one man, never the same returns. In the life of one man, never the same returns. There is a saying, no man steps twice into the same river. So, things don't happen in a single man for the second time. That's what, this is an interesting remark he makes. Then he says, tempter says, power is present, holiness hereafter. He tells him, Becket, my dear Becket, Archbishop, please understand that power is more important. First, power is present, and holiness hereafter. And he also says, real power can be purchased at a price of a certain submission, which means you go and surrender yourself to the king will appoint you for some position. So for the sake of power, you have to submit. But ordinary men do it. But men like Becket and Basavaraj don't submit. Bijjodana Bhandara Yanagekaya, he says, what should I do with the treasury of Bijjoda? Who cares? I don't care for the treasury of Bijjoda. He says, why should I care for Bijjoda? He is king, I am minister. But I have my own minister. Lord Kudala Sangamadeva is my minister. Becket says, I have my own supreme boss, and he is boss to me and also to you. And he says, your spiritual power is earthly perdition. Power is present for him who will wield. A person who acquires power can enjoy the power. But Thomas doesn't agree with the tempters. He says, no, shall I, who keep the keys of heaven and hell, supreme alone in England. Who is supreme in England? It is not the king, it is the archbishop. Because I have the keys. I keep the keys of heaven and hell. You don't have it. So you are not very powerful. So I can bind and loose. I can arrest and I can loose with power from the Pope. I acquire power from the Pope, and I can bind and I can loose. Descend to desire a punnier power. Delegate to deal the doom of damnation. to condemn kings, not serve among their servants in my open office. He says, I don't bother about the king and his power. Then he says, one tempter says, why can't you trust us? He says, there is no question of trust at all. How can he trust those who work for? When I don't trust your king, how can I trust you? I can never trust you. And he also says, I cannot trust the throne. I cannot trust the throne. He has, I have good cause to trust none but God alone. This is my strength, and it could be my limitation. I can trust only God. I can't trust anybody but God. I can't trust none but God and God alone. I know I ruled once as a chancellor in England. And men like you were glad to wait at my door, not only in the court, but in the field and in the till yard. I made many yield. He talks about the power that he used to exercise. And he also tries to remind them how they used to serve him when he was acting as chancellor. So this debate between tempters and Archbishop goes on. After the first part of the play, there is an interlude where he delivers a sermon. And in his sermon, at the end of his sermon, he tells his followers that he is ready to die. He is ready to get killed. And he says, this is going to be my last sermon. He delivers just one sermon after he comes back from exile after 7 years. And at the end of his sermon, he tells his followers that this is going to be his last sermon. He will not be, spared. I do not think I shall ever preach to you again. And because it is possible that in a short time you may have yet another martyr. He talks about martyrdom and so on. And he tells his followers that you are going to see one more martyr very soon. And that one perhaps not the last. The clash between these two, the fight between these two, the war between these two will not come to an end with my death. It will continue. It will continue. I would have to keep in your hearts these words that I say, and I think of them at another time, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. So he declares that he is going to die. And he can save his life. He can save his life. Just one word. If he says just one word, yes, you are my king, he will be saved. For which he is not ready. Then there come 4 knights. They are the henchmen of the king himself. He sends them to the cathedral to meet him, convince him. If he is convinced, it is fine. If not, you kill him. So 2 interactions take place between the knights and Archbishop in the second part of the play. And the knights makes a series of allegations against the Archbishop. And one knight says, you are the Archbishop in revolt against the king. This is the first charge against you. What we call charge sheet, the Archbishop, number one, may in rebellion to the king and the law of the land. If you reject the king, then it is rejecting king is as good as rejecting the law of the land. So you cannot reject the king. And you have done this. You are the archbishop who was made by the king. Who made you the archbishop? Who appointed you? It was the king, whom he set in your place to carry out his command. Why did he appoint you? He appointed you because he kept you in his place, in king's place, to carry out his command. Your duty, you don't have powers. What powers you have, they're all borrowed powers. You have powers are given to you, transferred to you for a certain purpose. So you have to carry out the direction of the king. But what did you do? You are his servant, his tool. You are no more than his servant. You are like any other servant. You are a tool and his jock. You wore his favors on your back. Remember that you are wearing his favors on your back from his hand. You won the titles. Who gave you the titles? It was the king who gave you the titles. And it was the king who gave everything that you think you have acquired on your own. From him you had the power, the seal of the ring. Who gave you the ring? There is a ring on your finger. Who gave this ring? That is symbol of power. The Pope, the Archbishop. This is the man who was the tradesman's son. What about you? Who are you? What is your family history? You were the son of a tradesman, the backstage brat who was born in Cheapside. You were born in Cheapside to a very humble humble parents. This is the creature that crawled upon the king, swollen with blood and swollen with fright. Now you drank his blood, okay, and you are swollen with blood and swollen with pride, creeping out of the London dirt, crawling up like a louse on your shirt. The man who cheated, swindled, lied, broke his oath and betrayed his king. These are the allegations. Then he negates, he rejects the allegations. And Thomas says, this is not true. I can take another 10 minutes. I will wind up. This is not true. Both before and after I received the king ring, I have been a loyal subject to the king. Don't ever say that I was not loyal to the king. Yes, I was. Saving my order, accept my order. And the knights have a problem with this word. Accept my order. I am at his command, his most faithful vassal in the land. Yeah, I respected him. I obeyed him. I was loyal to him. Saving my order. Then he says, if the king has any problem with me, if he has complaint against me, let him come out and say it in public. Okay, his command should be said in public. If you make charges, then in public I will refute them. I'm ready to discuss. I'm ready to discuss. Then he refutes all the allegations one after another. Then he says, "It's not I who insult the king. I never insulted the king. But you should know, your king should know, that there is higher than I or the king. There is a greater power. There is a higher authority. And that greater power, that higher authority is Christ himself. It's not I, Becket, born Cheapside. It's not against me, Becket, that you strive. It's not Becket who pronounces doom, but the law of Christ's church, the judgment of Rome. Becket is not important. Rome is important. Christ is important. The law of Christ's church is very important. The judgment of Rome is very important. So you should respect that. Then Thomas says, I don't surrender to this king. He is not very important to me at all. I submit my cause to the judgment of Rome. I am committed to Rome. I am answerable to Rome. But if you kill me, I don't bother. But remember, when you kill me, I shall rise from my tomb. I shall rise from my tomb to submit my cause before God's throne. If you want to kill me, you kill me, and when you kill me, I shall rise from my tomb and present my case, submit my cause before God's throne. Who is afraid of death? Then he says, like Basavarna, Thomas says, idakaranjuvaru, idakaralakuvaru. Who is afraid of death? Everybody is born to die. Everybody is born to die. When death is certain, why we should worry about it? Thomas also says, all my life they have been coming, these feet. All my life I have waited for death. Death will come only when I am worthy. This is very interesting observation. Death will come only when I am worthy. You don't die when you feel like dying. I have seen many old men and women in my villages cursing God. Why you have spared me? I want to die, you take me. But they are not picked up. They are not picked up. Everybody has to wait. Death will not come when you want it. Death will not come when we want it. Death will come to us only when it finds us worthy. Yes, today I can pick him up. And he says, I have not been killed till date. I have not been killed till date because perhaps death has not found me worthy. I have been waiting. Let them come and kill. If I am worthy, there is no danger. If I am worthy, if I am to die, then why should I fear danger? I have therefore only to make perfect my will. Priest says, one priest tells Becket, please try to understand. The knights will come. They are unhappy with you. They will come and kill you. And you just go to altar, and if you go to altar, they will not kill you. Again, in Taladanda, Bijala, he goes into the sanctum sanctorium and holds Shivlinga. Because he knows that that the Shivsharnas will not get into the temple sanctum sanctorium and murder him, and they will not pollute the temple with his blood. He knows it. So priests also tell him, you please go to altar. My lord, they are coming. They will break through presently. You will be killed. come to the altar. Make haste. Go fast, my lord. Don't stop here talking. It's not the right. What shall become of us, my lord? If you are killed, what shall become of us? You go to the altar. Don't delay. Make haste. If you get killed, what will become of us? What will be our fate? Go and save your life. He says, peace. Be quiet. Remember where you are and what is happening. No life here is sought for but mine. You don't worry. The knights will not murder. They will murder me. They will kill me, and I am ready for that. Why do you worry? They will kill only the shepherd, not the flock, he says. So I am not in danger and only near to death. Then he says, they shall find the shepherd here, the flock shall be spared. You will be spared and I will be killed, and I am ready to kill. But then they lock the door. The priests lock the door. The knights come. Then Thomas says, don't do that. You open the door. You open the door. He knows that he will be immortalized if he is killed. And I have lived my life for a certain cause. There is no loss to me if I get killed. I am ready. I can be killed. So he says, unbar the doors. Unbar, barring, unbar. I will not have the house of prayer, the sanctuary, turned into a fortress. I don't want the cathedral to become a fortress. It's not Aramane, it's not a palace. I don't want the doors of the cathedral to be shut. Keep them open. Keep them open. The church shall protect her own. The church shall protect her own. It can protect its own in her own way. The church can protect itself in its own way, not as oak and stone and oak decay. Give no stay, but the church shall endure. The church shall be open even to our enemies. Open the door. The gates of the church should be open to everybody, including the enemies. Don't close it. So Thomas has a desire to get killed. And he wants to die, because by dying the death of a martyr, he knows that that he can become become immortal. So at the end of the play, the knights come, the henchmen come, and they don't get into dialogue, discussion with the Becket second time, because they are fully convinced that Becket is not going to change. He is not going to accept king as a supreme power, and to set it right, and to make king a supreme power in the nation, they should kill him. So they come with a they come, and when Becket tells his priests to keep the door open, and they open the door, they enter and they kill him. But with this death, the clash between religion and politics has not come to an end. So this is a historical play, this is a political play, and this is also a modern play. And the play talks about the clash between religion and politics, the temporal power and the religious power. And it also talks about martyr and martyrdom and so on. and Beckett. He also, he he has an ambition. He has a religious ambition. Another is political ambition, and both the ambitions are in clash. In clash. And what is this religious ambition? He wants to get killed, by which he wants to become a martyr. He wants to immortalize his name in history. He wants to be remembered by the people, for which he must die and get killed. So this play, this is a major play, and this play can be profitably read as a historical play and as a political play. I think I have discussed certain important dimensions of this play to my best satisfaction. Thank you for attending this talk, for listening to my talk, and I will deliver my last talk in this series next week. I will be either talking on Saint John by G.B. Shaw, or Galileo by Bertolt Brecht. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. May God bless you. Good night.